Greetings, pod people of the future. I come from the pod future. My belly is full of bugs, and I have braved many very peaceful knife attacks to get to the time machine and deliver this important message. In the future, you won't be able to own anything, not even the bugs that you eat. Think about that. Now, if you're saying, I look just like the 2020 David, it's because I have a constant supply of adrenochrome in the future. It's one of the advantages of being a porn star, along with getting to keep my hair and not having to shave my head. To avoid the lice in the pods. Anyway, I wanted to talk today about ownership of things and the future trend of not owning things. Now, I'm going to link a video down below by Louis Rossmann. I know some of you subscribe to Louis and watch his videos on, in the future you will own nothing and you will be happy. This is something from the World Economic Forum. And I wanted to talk about the trend of, in general, converting things which are owned into things which are rented. And I've talked about this before that, there's a long history of economic analysis of trying to convert assets and things like that into rent, trying to convert everything that you have, like income derived from work, into rent, which is that you own something and somebody else pays you for the use of it. And that's really the trend, not just in terms of like movies, and I'm going to talk about games today in particular, but also physical objects like washing machines. Apparently there's subscription services for washing machines, subscription services for printers and printer ink. You get a new printer every 2 years and then we send you the ink every month. It's really about selling the ink, not about selling a printer anymore. Printers suck and they continue to get worse year after year. And there's a reason why, which is it's more profitable to convert what you're doing into rent, that somebody has to perpetually pay you for access, than it is to just sell individual movies and objects. Now, because at the start of this, when people started subscribing to Netflix, it's like, well, Netflix is only $15 a month or something. And, a DVD is $15. So it's like, for the same price of buying one movie a month, I can watch all of this content. And it seems like a really good deal until you realize that after a while, you haven't got anything. If something leaves Netflix, all of a sudden you don't have access to it anymore. So if you really wanted to watch that, show that you liked that was on Netflix, it's gone, and it maybe is never coming back, and you've lost access to it forever because of the decisions of the people who own the service. And this has a lot of ramifications, because if a piece of content suddenly becomes wrong in a social justice sense, then it disappears for the vast majority of people forever. Unless they found some way to capture it on some sort of physical media for the future, it's gone. Look at Song of the South. Song of the South is a movie that Disney put out and has been continually distancing themselves from for decades now at this point. Including, I think they're redoing the Splash Mountain ride, which is based on Song of the South, to, I think, Princess and the Frog or something is what they're redoing it to. So the only way that you can really watch Song of the South is if you watch a rip from a VHS that I think was only released in Europe, like way back in the 1980s, early 80s, when not everyone had VHSs. So it's a very rare thing to be able to actually watch the movie Song of the South, because the physical media is the only thing that has actually preserved that movie. Now, I was thinking about doing a little bit of a review of the Amazon Luna service, and I'll do that if I do that, it'll be as a separate video, separate thing, where I can just talk honestly about its functionality. But Amazon Luna, which is basically Google Stadia, but Amazon, probably a little bit better than Stadia in terms of value, because you don't buy the games. The games are perpetually rented, just like with Netflix. It's like another Netflix of video games kind of thing. But the trend there is that you don't really own your games. And actually, this has been a case where like the temperature of the water has been slowly turned up on the gamer frogs over the years, where the ownership of the game has become actually diminished in ways that people didn't realize. So Steam is one of the main drivers of this that I saw. Steam made digital delivery of games and management of the DRM something that's very convenient for both gamers and publishers, and really revolutionized the PC gaming market to the point where, like, having a physical copy of a PC game, like, it's like we're going back in time to have this physical copy where I can put this disc into my PC and install the game and play it. Like, the game is on this disc. You can even download the patches off the internet, but you don't have to. The game is playable out of this box. And that is actually something that is not true for most console games even. So if you buy a console game, you put the disc in, it installs the game, maybe, and installs some of the files, but it may not be functional at all. You may have to have an internet connection to actually download the game. And the disc is more or less just a transportable license key. It just holds your license rights in a physical object. So if you want to transfer those license rights, like give it to your friend, sell it to GameStop or something, then you can release those license rights by transferring the disc. It's very weird, but you can't play a game off a disc very often really anymore. I think the last console where the games were actually just played off the disc is the Wii U. So I traveled back from the future to find a Wii U because only the mountain people of Lamech actually own Wii U's in the future, where they're able to play their games with their generators off in the mountains where they burn the chicken feces from the chickens that they raise, living completely away from normal civilized society with its free pornography and free bugs, which you don't own. So in this case, like, you actually own this game because you can put it in the Wii U and play it. If the Wii U is not even connected to the internet, I can play Pikmin 3. This is not going to be the case for other games that you buy this generation and the upcoming generation, PlayStation 5, Xbox Series X, etc. generation. So with those, it's really going to be a key. It's kind of why they're pushing digital consoles. It's like, no, we just want to sell you the digital copy and that'll be it. Now, if they decide that you shouldn't have access to the digital copy, they can just plop that off because you don't actually own the console in a lot of ways now too. Now, if you guys watch Louis Rossman's video or you watch his channel at all, his political axe that he grinds is right to repair, which is that you should, if you own something like a phone or a laptop, you should be legally allowed to repair it. And things that stop you from repairing it, like taking down schematics, making it so nobody can buy the parts, those sorts of things are anti-consumer and we shouldn't have them. And I agree virtually across the board with all of that. If you own something, part of ownership is being able to alter it. But you now have a case where, like, if I alter my PlayStation by installing a new operating system on it or hacking it or something, there could be legal problems because somehow by opening the box, I've agreed to a license where I'm not going to alter their OS because it's their intellectual property. It's like, well, the intellectual property is on my physical property, so I should be able to alter my physical property by changing the ones and zeros that are written on the hard disk, right? Or the SSD, whatever it happens to be. It all becomes a thing where they're trying to eliminate your ownership over something that you physically own. And the physical holding of an object is only symbolic for your rights that you've purchased, your rental rights in a sense. So if you own the physical disc for a PS5 game, what you're really holding is perpetual rental license agreement in your hand. I could perpetually rent this game until they take down the servers in some future years, and then I can't play the game at all. I have to pirate it. I have to go into the 7 seas of the internet to actually be able to play the game. And this is a disturbing trend. That's also moved into washing machines. And I think for urbanites, the prospect of renting is usually better than buying because you live such a transient and impermanent life. Buying something becomes a burden. If you lived in your pod apartment in San Francisco with 8 other people and you bought a washer and dryer, when your job goes away or you have to switch jobs or move to Seattle in 18 months, what are you going to do with that washer and dryer you just bought? Well, you're going to have to find some kind of way to get rid of them. But if you rent it, you just end your rental agreement with it. And if your washer and dryer break when you're renting it, well, they just fix it or they bring a new one. You don't have to worry about paying rental people for their expertise to go fix your washer and dryer. And that's how it works. And really, they've trained us with phones with continual obsolescence of phones. Oh, my phone is slow and it's garbage. I'll buy a new one. Well, if you're buying a new one really often, they're even changing plans so that your phone plan includes a rental of your phone. You don't even own your phone anymore. Well, you're going to get a new phone every 2 years. So You might as well just rent the phone. Now, of course, at the end of the day, you end up paying more money to rent the phone than you would if you just bought the phone. But it's, I don't want to have to worry about fixing the phone. It's like if the phone breaks, I can just get a new one. It seems very convenient, and they kind of lure you in with that. And the whole point is to convert you into something where all of your income is just being paid out in rent and you own nothing. There's nothing that you can, in an emergency, convert into capital. There's nothing that you can hold on to if your job goes away. You basically become a much deeper wage slave. And you think about all the things that a person has to pay every month. They got to pay their student loans because they don't really own their education. Not only really, I mean, the student loan is like an ownership of you. It's an indentured servitude. You can't get rid of it with bankruptcy. It'll never go away unless you pay it off. So you always have to pay your student loans no matter what. Well, I got to get a job that lets me pay my student loans. Oh, I can't afford to buy a house because my income's not high enough. I'll have to rent a pod. I'll have to rent a small apartment. Well, that money just goes off into the abyss. You can't capture it as equity. There's no end goal where eventually you pay off the note and you own something that you can do something with. Nope, it just goes away forever. But you kind of want that because you're going to have to change cities every 12 months anyway. We might as well rent the washer and dryer. Washer and dryers used to just come part of the rental, but maybe they don't. Now I got to rent the washer and dryer too. I rent my movies through Netflix. I rent my games through Amazon Luna or Stadia. And in fact, I don't even own the console anymore. I stream it from Amazon's server. So I don't even own a physical console that's capable of playing a Blu-ray movie. I don't have any Blu-rays. I just watch things on Netflix and Amazon Prime. I don't own the OS on my PC. Maybe I lease my PC, things like that. I lease the furniture in my apartment because I have to move every 12 months. There's no real reason to own the furniture to begin with. And before you know it, you don't own anything. And this idea that people will own nothing and be happy because they're free of the burden of ownership of having to repair things, I think is very dystopian. In fact, because I'm from the future, I can tell you that it's quite dystopian, and if it were not for my career in the porn industry, I would be quite unhappy. So anyway, I wanted to talk about that and ask you what your thoughts are about the future of owning things. In the future, will you just lease guitars? And then when you're done, because instrument rentals have been a thing forever. It's like, oh, a clarinet's expensive to buy. We'll rent it to you for $50 a month or whatever. Rent it to you for $30 a month. That's much less expensive than buying an $800 clarinet. Before you know it, the music stores made like 10 grand on one clarinet. And it's like, we just repair it a little bit between users, and there we go. We're good. And we actually bought the clarinet for less than what we would sell it for. Anyway, so this stuff's been going on for a long time, and more things are being converted into rent as it becomes less and less possible for people to buy things. Even now, you can't buy a house. You have to take out a loan to buy a house, and really, the bank owns the house. As soon as anything happens to your job and you can't pay the mortgage, the bank just gets to keep everything that you put into it. They just get to keep the house, and you get to go find somewhere else to live. So anyway, it's a disturbing trend, and I wanted to get your thoughts on it and see kind of where things are going and how you can, resist it a little bit by having some physical media around. I realize that it's really hard to just buy PC games anymore. I have like some physical media PC games, but they're really hard to come by these days. So anyway, thanks so much, and I'll see you guys next time.